Hi, I'm Pastor Martin, and once again I want to welcome you to another perspective. You know, we minister a lot of messages, a lot of programs, a lot of concepts, a lot of ideas, you know, in our journey to wellness, because, you know, we want to be well. And so I speak to a sister the other day, and she wanted to get to a place where no matter what she was going through, no matter what she was faced with, that she would know where to find, you know, the appropriate scripture in the Bible that would sort of deal with her particular issue at that moment. And you know, I really didn't have an answer for her other than just simply study and study and study all the time. You know, I mean, I study a lot, but you know, for me, when I have certain things that I really want to look up right away, I just go right to the computer and I have like an online concordance. So for what she desired, you know, it really isn't necessary with the computers that we have today, because we can find our answers pretty quick. But you know, knowing where a particular verse is in the Bible and understanding, you know, what it says and how it applies to your particular issue really isn't the answer to becoming well. because reading and seeing and even understanding doesn't really affect the individual unless the individual actually wants to make a change. And most of the time we don't want to make that change. And the truth is that most of the issues that we have, most of the negative circumstances that we find ourselves in, we know what we did to get there. We know what it takes to get out. We just have a hard time pursuing that right path. So it's not really like we're involved in situations, negative situations that are totally, you know, unknown to us, how we got there and what we're going to do. We know. We just have a hard time doing it. You know, I mean, if you're an alcoholic and you love to drink, and drinking is messing up your life, you know, you need to stop drinking. If you have a weight issue and you're eating too much or eating the wrong kinds of foods and you're overweight, you know, the key is to begin to eat right, right? If your relationships are bad, if you keep hooking up with somebody who's not treating you right, not acting right, or say you have relationships outside of your marriage, I mean, you know, stop doing those things. So basically, all of the ills and all of the issues that we have, if your health is jacked up and you have a terrible chronic cough and you're smoking cigarettes, come on, you know what the answer is. So it's not really about finding, you know, what verse in the Bible tells us exactly, you know, how to respond in a situation. We know. We have the Spirit of God residing within us. We have the intellect that we've been born with, that we've been gifted with. And if we don't, we turn to Titus, the 2nd chapter, even, and we've recognized, especially like for women, for example, to sort of hook up with the older women, you know, to give advice, and the men the same. So we have the means to sort of keep ourselves out of situations and get ourselves out of situations that we find ourselves stumbling in, but we choose not to. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because we call ourselves Christians. We call ourselves disciples of Christ, but are we? And the answer is probably no. We're probably not walking after, you know, the teachings and the desires of Jesus Christ. We're probably not functioning in His will most of the time. And we sort of write it off as we recognize that we're not perfect and that we have grace and that we're okay, made righteous in the eyes of God. Yeah, but you know, that's not really the issue. As many of you know, I am a man that ministers a lot of grace, and I embrace a lot of grace. But the reality is simply because we're okay in the eyes of God doesn't mean that those negative actions that we take aren't taking a toll on our life, aren't having a negative effect on our life. So it's one thing to be made righteous by the actions of Jesus, to be made right in the eyes of God and to be well in the eyes of God. But it's another thing to be walking in defeat. See, you could be right in the eyes of God and spend your entire life walking in defeat and no victory at all. Because of what Jesus did, we've been made righteous. But because of what we do determines, you know, what our life, whether our life on earth is going to be abundant or not, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because we study too much Scripture. I mean, of course, you can't study too much Scripture, but I mean, we know the Bible back and forth. We know every jot and tittle. We know every story in here. So many of us do. But our lives are still kind of jacked up. Our family lives are messed up. Our health is messed up. In the workplace, we're kind of jacked up and nobody likes us. We sort of attribute it, well, it's because I'm a Christian and they don't like Christians. It's not that. They might just not like you, you personally, okay? That's what we're going to look at here. Because we walk and we believe, that God can give us favor, and we look for God to give us favor a lot of times, but it seems that we're getting just the opposite. And what I'm suggesting today is, as we walk as a disciple of Jesus, responding to people as Jesus would, they'll automatically give us favor. Even as we look in Scripture, people embrace Jesus. People embrace the disciples / apostles. The only folks that didn't were the religious leadership who found their positions being challenged, being threatened. So they hated Jesus. They hated the disciples. But as far as the ordinary people out there, they embraced Jesus. How do you think the church grew, so rapidly? Thousands were added to the church daily. Because the love of Jesus, the aura of Jesus, even that manifested in the lives of those disciples / apostles who remained after Jesus left, drew the people. And so we're going to figure out why, because we do want to draw folks, but even probably more than that, we want to be well ourselves. It's really unfortunate that too often we minister the truths in the Bible to folks that we are not really experiencing ourselves. I mean, say, for example, we believe in healing. We believe that the dead can be raised. We believe that limbs can grow where there weren't other limbs. And we might believe that lame folks can walk and crippled people can be made well. But when was the last time you saw one? And so do you really believe it? Or are you ministering something as gospel truth that you really don't know out of your own personal experiences? We need to begin to see some things here. We need to stop ministering things that we really don't know. Now, for our own benefit, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how we begin to embrace the victories and the abundance and the everlastingness and all the good stuff that we were promised, okay? And it's really very simple. And it's very simple, but it's challenging. And so I'm going to lay this out to you, and then you decide yourself, is it worth the effort, okay? And so we're going to turn in the Bible to the book of Matthew, the 16th chapter. I'm only going to read 1 or 2 verses. The 16th chapter, the 24th verse. And this is Jesus talking to his disciples, and it says, "Then said Jesus unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross, and follow me." Let him deny himself, and take up his cross, and follow me. That's it. So let's just not look at the whole sentence there. Let's just look at the first thing Jesus said that a man would have to do. To be his disciple, which is what we claim to be, which is what we desire to be, even when we call ourselves Christians, that we are disciples of Jesus. Jesus said that if any man will come after me, if any man will be my disciple, in other words, let him deny himself. That's it. That's the message today. Let him deny himself, that we might deny ourselves. This is the key to everything. This is the key to a life of victory as a believer, as a disciple of Jesus, as a child of God, as a human being for that matter. But it's also the key to failure if it's not embraced. This is where we've lost it. It was very interesting not long ago when Barack Obama was in the primaries running against Hillary Clinton. He almost derailed his presidential run when he was caught in San Francisco making a statement about certain folks clinging to